At LinkHumans, we've spoken to countless HR leaders from around the world, all trying to measure employer brand. The Employer Brand Index is used by GE and Unilever on a quarterly basis to uncover and measure their reputation as an employer, with a final score they can track over time to see how things are changing. We look at what candidates, employees, and alumni say about your organization in an employment context. If you're looking to research your employer reputation, or if you're developing an EVP, this would be the perfect time to create your Employer Brand Index baseline. You'll get a full report of insights and recommendations that you can use to improve your employer brand over time. Head over to employerbrandindex.co and start measuring.
Hey, sons of Vason, it's Jürgen Sundberg here with the Employer Branding Podcast, brought to you by your friendly team here at LinkHumans out of London. This is, of course, the show where we have an employer brand leader on to answer questions about their company, the talent landscape, what employer brand looks like in their organization, how it's deployed, and lots of tips and tricks along the way. With that, let's start the show. Stu, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're great, thank you. Please let our listeners know who you are and what is it that you do.
Yeah, great to be here, Jürgen. And I know we've known each other a few years, and it's great to be in the pod. So my name's Stu. I'm based at Workday, and I'm the global director for talent, brand, and marketing. So we're an organisation of 20,000 people. We create software that helps businesses manage their most important things, which is their people and their finance, essentially. And my team is there to ensure that we create a authentic employer brand when hiring across the globe. You know, making sure it's localized, but also making sure that we're consistent in our message and who Workday represent as an organisation globally. So I've been here for about 3 years and a quarter, and that's me and where I am at the minute.
Amazing. And I would assume that a fair few of our listeners are familiar with Workday, but how would you describe it? What's the elevator pitch, and also how big is the company, where are you based, and all those things?
Yeah, so I think, Workday is obviously pretty well renowned in the US market. The brand has significantly grown in international markets, and that's definitely a strategic imperative for us as an organization. I think we've got over 75 million users worldwide. So you've probably done it yourself or know someone who's, booked your holiday time off or checked your pay slip, if your company has used our HR software. And then, in terms of size and scope, we've got offices all over the US, Costa Rica, Mexico, all the way through EMEA with our hub in Dublin, and then lots of areas as well of APJ, specifically in India, ANZ, Singapore, and some other places as well. So pretty big scope. And then I guess more broadly, where you'd probably see Workday as well, is there's been heavy investment from the corporate marketing team in areas like sport marketing. So the F1 and, we've got a deal with Borussia Dortmund as a football team in Germany, golf. So there's a lot of sport marketing that goes on. So a lot of our logos are in those arenas and platforms, I'd say.
Okay, interesting. Right. So if we turn to talent acquisition and retention, what is the talent challenge in a nutshell for Workday?
I think currently it's new markets, actually. The company is expanding into different geographies and creating new, economies of scale for us to hire talent, especially in countries like Costa Rica and India at the minute, and Poland. So these are areas where we're pretty much building the brand from the ground up and embedding ourselves in talent markets. So as a challenge, that is definitely a big one from a brand perspective in terms of landing. You only get kind of one good first impression really as an organization when you land somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's massively important for us. I think obviously moving into the AI space, you know, Workday has invested heavily in AI for well over a decade and has one of the largest data sets in the world within the kind of HR arena. And I think for us, there is definitely niche skill sets with this new evolution of AI agentic talent who we need to bring in and support us on that journey. That talent is in pretty much skill scarcity, and a lot of companies are fighting for the same talent there as well. So across the board, we don't have an application issue. So from my perspective, it's definitely in most cases with most organizations, it's the skill scarcity areas hard to fill, and then also thinking about brand building in areas where Workday's brand is pretty low from an awareness perspective. But we've made real headway over the last year in those areas, and yeah, very proud of the accomplishments we've made there.
I'm sure you have with you at the helm too. So you talked about talent scarcity, and give us some of the job titles where are your hardest to fill roles across the organization?
Yeah, so I spoke about the AI agentic space. You've got that areas of machine learning engineers, and I think another really interesting one for us is like a lot of our consultants are super technical. So it's actually finding consultants that have the technical ability. So these might be technical functional consultants if you're looking for the job role. But there's just a real lean into like that technicality and actually really understanding, the technical nuances of implementing such software amongst, some of the biggest brands in the world. And I think, there's a lot of education at Workday. There is a lot of upskilling that goes on. We've got a gig economy where you can move across and try project work on different teams. But in terms of like ready-made talent coming in, they're definitely the hardest to fill, I think, at the minute. Yeah, I'd say they're probably the main two. I would say at the minute for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and to help with that, of course, you have an employer brand function which you head up. Tell us about the genesis of this. How did it come about? What's the structure now, and where are you in terms of maturity?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I joined Workday back in the spring of 2022, and we didn't even have an EVP. We had and still have 6 incredibly ingrained company values that I think, the team that I inherited pretty much used as their value proposition because they were so strong. And that's kind of was like, that was our identity, is these 6 values. And then they leaned into the brand architecture and furniture of the corporate brand as well. There actually wasn't a talent brand identity either. So first major project within 6 months is we stood up our first ever EVP and our first ever talent brand with an identity to, put our workmates front and center in styles of our talent brand. We didn't have people talking about, Stu, we need to create content for our candidates. And I was like, brilliant. Well, where's our blog? Where do we house all this stuff? Oh, we haven't got a blog. We post on employees' LinkedIn profiles, and then that's how it gets distributed, which, that's fine if that was the way of doing it. But, we built all of these bricks to build our foundation with, updating our careers website, building the blog. Oh my God, the amount of source tracking we had to fix. We had, job boards being bought all over the place within TA, no consolidation. So it was the wild, wild west. And we've brought a lot of organisation to that, to the point where, we're 3 years and a quarter into my sort of leadership and tenure here. That talent brand has evolved. We've kept evolving it. The EVP has had iterations because we are a far different company from where we were 3 years ago, including, new core leadership, a new CEO, a new CMO, even a new corporate brand. And on the topic of that, we've just built our talent brand 2.0, as well as a tailored approach to talent value proposition. So a lot of people have done TVPs in the past. I've listened to your pods in the past, Jorgen, and people spoke about, tailored value propositions for certain talent segments. We've tried to go one step further in the sense of, great, we've got, this isn't about running a campaign because we're hiring a certain talent segment. We're actually creating a brand identity, actually sub-brands within our talent brand. And it's not just messaging frameworks and a value proposition. Our brand actually will flex depending on who we're speaking to. And that's aesthetically and in message and in tone of voice. So we've got an engineering brand now, a sales brand, a CX/consulting brand, and an early career sub-brand. And this is almost TVP plus talent brand. And we're calling them tailored talent brands because it's an aesthetic and a messaging framework. It's not just running a campaign because we've got 40 software engineers and we need to get them quickly. There's a start and end date. So we're really excited about that. Happy to talk more about those. But yeah, we've come a long way in those 3 years, and our paid advertising has come a long way. Our organic has come a long way, and even the way we're working with the business and the internal relationships that we've built. Nobody knew that there was a talent brand marketing team really within Workday, and now we've been able to showcase our work in forums like the HR global all hands call and town halls and environments where we just didn't have the opportunity. So yeah, it's been a really great journey. We've still got a huge way to go by any stretch of the imagination, but very proud of where we were and where we've come from and where we are now.
Absolutely. And there's a lot to unpack there in your answer, Stu. So first of all, I'm interested in your 6 very ingrained company values and how you, it can get very political and people can be territorial about corporate furniture like that. How were you able to then create a talent brand positioning or an EVP? And are they similar in any way, or do they differ from the values?
No, they absolutely do align, and it's more about, the values were almost like the foundation of what we were building from, and then the pillars that informed us from all of the quantitative and qualitative data allowed us to create a universal way of talking about these pillars and the culture in a sense. So these pillars brought to life the values. We were also incredibly inspired by some of the work that our learning team had done, because when you join Workday, you actually get a pack of called Values in Action. And it doesn't just say, here's our value and please adhere to it. It actually gives real life actionable things for you as a workmate as you come in to live those values. Like, don't do this, think about it this way, or this is what this value means. And we were able to really it's an extension, and I think that is so important. These two things can't coexist. They've got to live and really complement each other.
So sort of from value to pillar to behavior even.
Absolutely, yeah. So 100%. So the pillar is also influencing what stories we're actually empowering our workmates to discuss in their own voice, which is really, really crucial as well. So the behavior is absolutely living the values, and our pillars represent what living the values at Workday is. So that it all coexists in the same, and there are linkages, which is super, super important. But obviously the tailored talent brands then really dive in. So we actually made our EVP really palatable for everyone internally, because we call it our Why Workday. We don't even call it an EVP. So
sorry, what's the call again?
Why Workday? It's our
Well, Workday. Okay. All right. So the answer is the why question.
exactly 100%. Yeah, and then that's obviously underpinned with give and gets, which match again those values in action. It's kind of like, well, if you bring this is the environment that you're going to provide and that you'll be provided with. So that's kind of the approach we took.
And I like this. Why Workday? Did you pick that because people get confused when you start talking about EVPs and?
Yeah, listen, every organization, especially in tech corporate, right? There's, acronyms coming out of our ears wherever we walk. And I generally think people get intimidated within TA about EVP. They think they know what it is, but is EVP just the pillars? Is it the messaging? Is it also the aesthetic? And it's like people just talk about EVP, whereas like we just want to say, this is our why Workday, guys. This is our messaging, and just make it very palatable and easy to digest. No big acronyms, nothing, nothing. You don't want to make it complicated for people.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so the TVPs, let's just bring out another acronym. It's the tailored value propositions. To me, you said they're not related to just one campaign. Could they be compared to personas? So people that you're going to need to bring into the organization over time?
Yeah, I try to like not. I kind of feel like persona models are a little bit dated now. Especially, you see the old persona kind of guides and it's like, our engineers live on Reddit and, well, yeah, they do. But, they probably go on YouTube like the early career guys and TikTok like everyone else. And there's a lot more fluidity. It's not really as black. I think persona can sometimes make things black and white. So it was more around actually looking at the sentiments of these category groups, because these are our biggest areas and strategic areas of hiring. We wanted to categorize them, and we tackled all four at the same time, which was pretty mental. We probably should have just gone with one and then gone, oh, we did that well, and then moved on to the others. But we tackled them all at once, and it was a bit of a beast, but it was great. And we leaned into Link Humans' employer brand index and segmented by the sentiment externally around these areas. We've got a employee engagement and listening tool called Peacon, which is a Workday product that we use internally, and was able to really dive in and hear sentiment on what our workmates are thinking and feeling about working at Workday across many, many different areas. And then we also ran some focus groups as well with people, and then we were able to create the themes. But the aesthetic part was super fun. Like engineers, we've got dark mode gradient. We've got like coding in our titling and headlines. Our CX and consulting brand has like sketch like kind of scribbling, agile methodology, sticky notes. You're like consulting and running kind of agile groups. Our sellers brand is big and bold, like the sellers. So they're all a personification. We've got iconography for our early careers brand. Each icon represents a skill, our top skills at Workday that our early career talent are, driven to kind of upskill themselves on. So it's all these intricacies that we've really thought about. You can call them personas, but it was more about listening to segments of talent and really understanding, well, why engineering here over our competitor? Why selling here over our competitor? What's really our pitch for these type of talent segments? And then how do we stop them in the scroll and go, wow, that is me. Like I feel like that's me in dark mode in front of my screen, cracking code. It's like we want that to resonate with engineers. And it was super fun. We worked with Atomic, who have been a great partner from an agency standpoint. And like even stuff like the engineering piece, like some of the headlines that came up were like, I was like, if I don't understand them, that's fine, because it's not me. I'm not the audience. Like the engineers are. So it was great. It was real good learning. really creative, and we're super excited to get them into market. And we've soft launched all of those now, and we'll be doing a career site refresh. Should have everything up by October this year. So,
And which tailored proposition do you think you've done the best job at, and which one do you expect to have the most success from?
I personally feel like the engineering one speaks to always like the most tailored. I really like, we have really kind of leaned in on thinking about the aesthetic, what engineers are really looking for, and why our value prop for them is different, but tailored. And I think the engineering one is pretty special, to be fair.
Okay, amazing. Right, so moving on to activation. You mentioned something about your workmates being the stars of Talent Brand. So what does it look like if you're from the outside and you're considering working for Workday? What would it look in someone's feed, or if I go onto the career site, what sort of storytelling will I be consuming?
Yeah, so I'd say it's literally it's from the workmate to the fellow workmate it's real stories about their work. It's also being, we've really thought about, we actually did some, photo and video shoots across the globe to kind of bring these brands to life. And we wanted to ask questions, and we did ask questions around like, what's your biggest challenge? Things that a lot of companies love to say what they are, but almost like talking about some of the things that are a little bit difficult, or just a bit brutally and honest, and that's okay. Like, we want this to be authentic. So I think it will be a representation of like the honest truth, the authentic truth. It's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And majority of that is going to be great. But we all know nowhere's perfect, and it's understanding what maybe some of the biggest challenges were, but how, with the growth mindset that we have at Workday, those workmates overcame those things. There's going to be a mix of, people pretty happy in front of camera. There's going to be people who were more inclined to create long form content for us. So we've got a big Workday life blog with hundreds of workmate stories on. It's crazy. And with this new career site being launched at the back end of this year, that's really going to give us that tailored approach. So, on the homepage and the Life at Workday page, you'll start to know what the company is like. You get to know why Workday. You get to know what the values are, what our benefits are, and what general life is like to be a workmate. And then as you dive into the team pages where your skill sets align, you'll really get a picture of, a deepened knowledge of why Workday, but for in the team that you're potentially going to go into. And that's super important. And this is where these tailored talent brands play a part. So I think I'd say, it's impossible for me to kind of summarize everybody's stories. But
well, let's try.
Workmates are super proud. I've never worked somewhere where someone's so proud to work. This isn't, we haven't grabbed people and gone, oh, we want you to say this. Can you say this? Because this is going to make us look really good. Like, the formats of the video content that we shot, the videos were like, we sat down and we were like, look, just speak to me like we're in a coffee shop and you're just talking to me about your job. Very casual. We don't need you to use any kind of Workday jargon. Like, talk to me directly. And it was just a really, really, it was almost vulnerable. And that, I love that. And, we don't mind the and we don't want it to be, oh, can you say that again? Or like, we're happy with the little hiccups, because that's real life. And that's a reflection of Workday as well, in terms of bringing your full self to work and being accepted for the human that you are at work as well, which I know is a cliche everywhere, but it's truly lived at Workday.
Yeah, amazing. And you said something at the beginning as well about sports marketing, that your logo is seen a lot in the world of sports, which is a different way of perhaps attracting candidates and customers. I wonder if that has had any noticeable impact for your recruitment funnel, and do people mention it in interviews?
Yeah, it's a real interesting one. Again, I think this is broader visibility part. So I equally think that a lot of your decision makers who are buying HR and financial software are probably in those F1 golf arenas where
Yeah.
they might be aligned to sports and competitive sport, and from a buying persona, not going back to personas, from a buying persona perspective, that's the kind of prime spot. So, and equally as well, it's kind of, everybody watches sport. To a certain extent, like the viewership of sport is incredible. So, even if you're just a user of Workday, it's that repetition of the logo and going, "Oh, I use that at work. I've seen it on TV." It's that always being there piece, I think, as well. So I think there's two lenses to it. There's the kind of always on piece. I mean, in terms of directly impacting us in recruitment, I'd say less so. I think we actually saw a big spike when we did the Rockstar campaign. The corporate team did the Rockstar campaign for Super Bowl. Okay. And naturally the brand just kind of overnight had a complete kind of upturn in terms of career site traffic and all of that good stuff. We that was a few years ago now. We have got a case study on it somewhere. I can't remember all of the numbers, but yeah, I vividly remember that having a direct impact and down, wow, look at the spike. But yeah, I'd say it's more of a steady investment, I'd say, more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's probably validate you as a strong company in people's minds, whether they're buying or looking for jobs. And which F1 team is it that you're sponsoring? Putting you on the spot now.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top. I honestly, I am not a massive fan.
No, neither am I. But when you said it, I knew I've seen the logo.
Yeah, see, there we go.
But I can't remember the words.
It's there. But yeah, no, that's the only downside is, sorry. I
sort of thing you see at an airport.
Yeah. We had funny enough, our APJTA leader put in Slack a couple of weeks ago. I think he was at a Aussie Rules game, and he saw Workday advertising on the big advertising screen in the stadium in Australia. So like even as like product placement there was like, wow, that's quite interesting. And he just said, great to see it there. But again, I think a lot of it is for awareness, especially in these international markets as well, because Workday's got such a prominent brand being born in the US. So yeah,
for sure. All right. So moving on to results. How do you measure results, and what sort of metrics do you look at, and how do you report these back to your leaders?
Yeah, so I think there's obviously tactical things that we look at from a, source tracking, career website performance, pipeline health, things like even application health, right? The number of candidates that we're attracting that are meeting business requirements and things like that, skills requirements. And then you've obviously got elements of social advocacy and the amount of money, if we went down other paid avenues, how much would that cost us in media value, all the way through to putting a cost on things like the amount of talent that's in our CRM platform. Like what does that actually equate to in dollars? Is there any logic between, we've got 1.4 million in our CRM. What does that equate to in dollars through a logical way of looking at things? And we try to look at things and go, well, what's our candidate to hire ratios? What's our average cost per hire? And then working out, well, roughly in our CRM, if that equated to a dollar figure, it would be X amount. So that's things like that, is trying and using logic to bring to life in either dollar, time savings, or equivalent, so that we're talking the languages of leadership, the chief financial officer, and our peers at the C-suite level. So I'd say they're the major things. And looking at, if we cut advertising costs, well, what's the knock-on effect from doing that? Looking at a range of engagement stats from social media, obviously. I'd say they're the big ones. And then with things like email marketing and nurture, like, are we meeting industry standards? Are we, open rates, click-through rates? So there's elements of ROI data, performance analysis that's benchmarking. It's bringing it to life in dollar amounts or time-saving amounts. And then those standard marketing metrics of engagement, followership, and, so that it paints a well-rounded picture. That's a kind of approach that we go and we look for.
Yeah, and so out of all those things, the places that you measure, which one are you proudest of and happiest to talk about?
I think the earned media value is a big one. So we use Everyone Social at Workday, and we worked out what our kind of CPN, which is the kind of cost we would normally pay to reach or hit 1,000 impressions, basically, is what the metric is. And then we worked out, well, from the reach of the hard work we've put into our employees being distributors of content, what would be our earned media value? Last year, it was around about 180K worth of earned media value. And we've got, on a quarterly basis, we just did in the last quarter, we had 2,500 workmates who were participating in sharing our content on Everyone Social.
Right.
Now, as an organization, I think we're in between 5 or 6 that are all sort of social distributors. So it's nearly half of that population are actually sharing our content. And equally, if you look in the bigger scheme of things, as a 20,000 people organization, it's round about the sort of 12% mark of employees that are sharing which is a really good, story to tell. And I think for us, that it goes back to that element of pride, Jorgen, that I spoke about earlier. Where we've done these photo and video shoots, of course we had to source the right people with great stories, whether that was career transitioning or career development or just engaging people. But they all were really forthcoming. Sign me up. I'll be there. Let me know. Give me the notice. It was never like 20 questions or they weren't sure about it. They all have this element of pride to really come forward and share their story. So, I think that's echoed in their efforts on this. And we've also, one metric I completely forgot to mention was referrals as well. So I think something like 1 in 3 workmates have referred someone in like the last 12 months, which is, we've got, again, it's that referral is a wonderful source and is a representation of the pride your workforce has as well. So referrals is huge for us as well, actually. Got to mention that. Yeah.
Great. And final question on measurement. So yes, we partnered up on doing the employer brand index for Workday, and at the same time you use Peakon, which is your internal listening tool. So it's both ways of capturing sentiment. One would be in the public domain and one would be internal. I'm wondering how the results came back, if there were any differences or did they each validate each other?
No, there was quite a lot of validation. I think there was a little bit of, internal data where we were like, oh, actually, it's a little bit higher than what our perception is on some of the categories. And that meant that we could lean into that as actually, we should be talking more about that because we actually have a stronger story than what our external perception is. I think some of Some of that was around, speaking more about our inclusive workforce and diversity of thought at Workday, especially in areas like CX. So there's this real kind of freedom within a framework in consulting where you've got to do it the Workday way, but sprinkle your flavor over it. And we were able to kind of bring that to life. I think that was definitely a correlation we looked at from memory. But yeah, in all, it was a very much a representation, which was a good thing for us actually.
Yeah.
And there was certain elements where it was like actually that there was just a slight gap where we could kind of play and elevate ourselves a little bit more in our storytelling, because backed up from the internal, we can change this external perception in certain elements. But as I say, the CX one with the kind of diversity of thought and bringing your own flavor to what you do was and it actually became a theme. That's actually one of the themes in the CX brand. Actually, that influenced it that much.
Wow.
Yeah, even in our interviews, we've got functional and technical consultants and customer success managers all kind of saying, well, yeah, there's a freedom within a framework. This is how I make it, how I approach it. This is my little flavors with customers. So it was really great to lean into that and bring it into our authentic storytelling as well.
Amazing. That's a really good application of really spotting opportunities to, create more engagement where it's going to be positive. It's just about increasing voice sometimes.
Sure.
Right. So, Stu, you've worked in the space for a few years now. And what would be some of your top tips to employer brand, talent brand professionals listening to this right now?
I think the biggest is problem solving. I think it is so undervalued as a skill and a mindset, is that you need to constantly be thinking about solving TA's problems and even your own. Whether it's, we haven't got enough content. Well, how are you going to solve that? Or, we haven't got enough money or investment in this area. Well, start thinking creatively with zero budget then. It's problem solving and having a growth mindset to kind of go, all right, this is the situation today. We need to get to a different situation. How are we going to get there? You could be great at social. You can be the most amazing copywriter. You can be incredible at brand. You can know programmatic job advertising till the cows come home. But problem solving is a very underrated soft skill in employer branding for sure. Second one for me is trying to see what's out in market, but push it a bit further on. Like, nothing wrong with being inspired by what people are doing in this space, but we need to take it somewhere else, I think, as an industry. I'd even go to say, maybe don't look at other people's and look at what e-commerce brands are doing and the technology they're implementing and the way they're going to market is massive. And I think the third one plays into kind of psychological marketing, but also marketing experience. We're actually creating experiences for these candidates. Gone are the days of just marketing and branding. We are really dabbling in this arena of experience and creating we are making people feel things, and we've got to add a psychological element to that. Really start to understand how people, what are their motives, what are their fears, what are they, but an even more extensive psychological stance on things. So I think that's a bit of a blend. That's probably 4, but I'd say it's psychological and experiences and trying to use some of that theory in what you do. Yeah, listen, I could have said AI and all the usual stuff, but I tried to go with 3 different things. Everyone talks about AI. Of course, you've got to be upskilled on this whole new era, but yeah, I'd say those are the biggest 3 things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's really useful. Thank you for that. And Stu, what is it that makes your job so special? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I think there's two things, right? The people that you work with. I absolutely love the team that I work with at Workday. I was privileged to inherit.
You've hired all of them, haven't you?
No. I was just about to say I was privileged to inherit a number of amazing people.
Okay.
I was able to bring and hire some people from previous lives and worlds who I knew were excellent, and the way we've been able to blend the kind of old and new mindsets on the team over the last 3 years has just been incredible. We're just a very close-knit team. I love my team to bits, and they're awesome human beings. And even growth mindsets and internal mobility stories. We were able to onboard someone on my team this year from a gig, which I mentioned was kind of a short-term, project experience that gives you exposure to a different role within Workday. And we were able to hire her earlier this year from the coordination team. Someone, fairly early on in career who'd had marketing university education, but never kind of got the break. And it's been great to bring someone in and train them up from the ground up. That's been equally as rewarding. And then I think in terms of like the bigger scope of just why I love employer branding still, after all these years, probably been in it for just over a decade, is it's still people, it's still humanizing the brand. And I think, marketing's always wonderful and creative and I love it, but there's still something so special about marketing human beings and personifying a brand that I never get bored of. And there's just so much, there's so much scope for us to take this far beyond how we're thinking about it today as an industry, that keeps me waking up every day pumped to do better and do more. So yeah, the people, and just love the space for what it is and the opportunities for sure.
Amazing. Okay. So final question is, where can our listeners connect with yourself, Stu, and where can they learn more about the talent brand, the employer brand on Workday?
Yeah. So obviously Workday, feel free to go on to the .com site, workday.com. Our careers website is workday.com/careers. A lot of our content is distributed via the corporate company profiles. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and we don't really do much on X anymore, to be honest. And then in terms of me speaking about what we do, you can obviously connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Stuart G. Hazell. I'm there. Just search for me. Happy to connect and have conversations with people around absolutely anything within employer branding. I always love to, draw inspiration from conversations, or if I can help anyone out with what I know, I'm happy to. They're probably the spots to find us or myself.
Stu, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, folks, there we have it. Be sure to reach out to our guest with any questions or just to connect. You can find this episode and the entire back catalogue over at employerbrandingpodcast.com, along with articles summarizing what we have learned. And if you, just like many of my dear interviewees, are interested in measuring employer brand, be sure to check out the Employer Brand Index. Of course, providing unbiased employer brand insights driven by data. It's trusted by some of the greatest companies in the world, and you can find it at linkhumans.com. Or why not get in touch with me and I'll tell you all about it as well. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and catch you next time. Hey,
I've got a nephew. He's 4 years old. He's learning languages at nursery, and he can't say please in Spanish. That's por favor, that is.